you like another debate? This is officially the last party-organized debate. Would it help your
Mr. Poilievre, there was a debate scheduled on the 30th of May in Toronto. Mr. Poilievre signed off. Doesn't want to debate anymore.
Are you going to participate in that debate?
It was organized, I understand, by True North, and they decided not to hold the debate.
Would you like to see the party organize another debate? They've left.
I'm open. If the party organizes another debate, I will show up. I will be there.
Do you have a gentleman's agreement with Patrick Brown not to attack each other?
We are friends. We've known each other for years. He came into politics with me when he was 15 years old. There is no agreement among both camps, and he's campaigning very vigorously. I do not underestimate Patrick Brown, by the way. I don't underestimate him a second. You witnessed what he did in Ontario when he won the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. So we can actually be on the same stage, compete in the leadership, and respect each other. That is possible for some of us. Not all of us, but for some of us.
Sur la loi 96, plusieurs de vos opposants ce soir, on les a entendus se positionner clairement. Il y en a qui se sont dit contre. Il y en a qui ont dit qu'elle allait intervenir en cours, que le gouvernement fédéral allait intervenir s'il l'emporte. Vous avez été clair sur la loi 21, mais sur la loi 96, qu'est-ce que vous feriez si vous deviez...
Sur la loi 96, ce sera la même approche. C'est-à-dire que si l'affaire va devant la Cour suprême du Canada, mon gouvernement se prononcerait sur la loi. Maintenant, c'est une loi de compétence québécoise. Il faut respecter le fait que c'est une compétence québécoise. Alors donc, si ça va à la Cour suprême du Canada, mon gouvernement se prononcera. Comme c'est le cas pour la loi 21.
Monsieur Charest, vous avez travaillé pour la compagnie Huawei. Maintenant, vous voulez bannir cette compagnie du Canada. Qu'est-ce qui a changé depuis ces quelques mois-là et pourquoi vous travaillez pour cette compagnie?
Madame, Huawei est arrivé au Canada sous un gouvernement conservateur. Huawei était commanditaire à la soirée du hockey. La situation a beaucoup changé. Le gouvernement conservateur a signé une entente, un traité sur l'investissement avec la Chine dans cette période de temps-là. La situation a évolué. Ça s'appelle la vie. Et ma position là-dessus, elle est très claire depuis très longtemps que je bannirais Huawei. Finalement, le gouvernement Trudeau a décidé de bouger. C'est ça ma position. Point.
Mr. Charest, can you repeat in English what you would do about Bill 96 should it reach the Supreme Court level?
Well, it's the same position I've taken on Bill 21. This is provincial jurisdiction. We all get that. We understand that. If this bill goes in front of the Supreme Court of Canada, my government will speak to it, as I have said for Bill 21. Which, by the way, tonight, interesting in the debate, Mr. Poilievre's position in French in Quebec was that he wouldn't fight the bill in the Supreme Court of Canada. And I'm not even sure from his answer tonight, because he's so slippery, on what he said exactly.
So you wouldn't just speak to it, you would fight it, should it get to that point?
My government will speak to our jurisdictions, to the issues that are relevant to the government of Canada in front of the Supreme Court of the country. My government will not be neutral on the future or a piece of legislation in the Supreme Court. If our jurisdictions are part of the debate, which is the case, well then we'll speak. Now, am I the one who is going to go out there and provoke court action? The answer is no. I made that very clear. We get it, that it is provincial jurisdiction. We all get that. Fine. But if it goes to the Supreme Court, then we'll speak to it.
The other candidate said that it infringes on the rights of Quebecers and Canadians. Do you believe that's true?
Well, that'll be a matter for the courts to examine. That'll be a matter for the courts to examine. Merci beaucoup.
Il y a des questions?
Mr. Brown, Lincoln J for Rebel News. We've seen you shut down Brampton public parks, playgrounds, and other public facilities under threats of $880 COVID fines and worse. My colleagues and I witnessed you breaking your own rules, heading to play hockey with your friends, and you lied about that too. What do you say to voters that don't believe you because of your past actions?
Well, I certainly don't agree with Rebel Media, and was very clear that I was one of the few big city mayors that pushed back against the closures of recreation. And I'm sure you know that complaint from Rebel was found to be factually incorrect. And I'm proud of my record during COVID-19 to have been one of the few big city mayors in the country who didn't have vaccine mandates and pushed to make sure that recreation was open, to stay active, to stay fit.
Mr. Brown, would you like another debate? This is your last official one.
I think that's up to the party. If the party organizes another debate, of course, I'll participate. I think these are opportunities to see the different types of leadership the candidates will offer.
Sur la loi 96, vous avez dit que vous étiez contre. Est-ce que vous promettez de la contester de façon aussi féroce que pour la loi 21, ou vous êtes plus modéré sur ce sujet-là?
Peut-être c'est plus tôt pour une décision sur ça maintenant, parce qu'il y a une élection provinciale bientôt. Il peut y avoir cette discussion et cette débat, mais je suis très clair ce soir que je suis contre la loi 96 parce que c'est contre le charte canadien. C'est important que tout Canadien ait le droit de leur langue officielle, si c'est anglais ou français, n'importe le côté de le pays qu'il vit, s'il vit au Colombie-Britannique, s'il vit au Québec, il a le droit de parler en anglais ou en français, si c'est avec le médecin, et c'est un bon exemple. C'est important d'avoir ce droit de parler.
Mr. Brown, if you were elected Prime Minister, would you uphold the ban on some 1,500 assault weapon-style firearms that was brought on by the Liberals in May 2020?
So I've said that right now you've got a bad law on top of a bad law, and what we really need to do is to start fresh and make sure that we have a proper discussion with law enforcement, victims groups, all the stakeholders, and put this together properly. Quite often I find as a big city mayor, we're missing the frustrations and we're missing the complaints from law enforcement. I'll give you an example. In Peel Region last year, 84% of the firearms found in crimes were smuggled from south of the border. Criminal organizations are becoming more and more sophisticated in terms of how they smuggle guns into the country, and that's the problem right now. That's where gangs are using illegal weapons, and we need to have a conversation. What are we going to do to protect our country from this influx of smuggled weapons? Gangs are becoming more sophisticated than ever before, and the response from the federal government has been silent.
What do you think Pierre Poilievre's strategy in this race is? You've gone hard on him. What do you think he's angling at in this race?
Well, obviously he's taking positions that he believes are popular in some corners of the country. He's obviously, searching for the support of the Pat Kings of the country. I just don't think the positions that he takes are electable. I think if Pierre Poilievre wins this leadership, we've already lost the next election.
Mr. Relationship with Monsieur Charest, it has been discussed for some time in this campaign whether there was any sort of gentleman's agreement, if you want to call it that. Certainly we haven't heard you criticize him. So can you clarify whether there is any sort of formal, informal agreement and whether we might ever see you disagree?
Yeah, certainly no gentleman's agreement, but I would say I have a friendship with Jean Charest like I do with Leslyn Lewis and Roman Baber and Scott Aitchison. I get along all quite well with them. I've got differences of opinions with Pierre, but I've known him for a while. I would note, though, I was a volunteer for Jean Charest in the 1995 referendum, and I think it's worth noting that when Pierre says Jean Charest is not a conservative or Ed Fast is not a conservative, I think he doesn't really appreciate the history they have in the party. And Ed Fast, one of the longest serving MPs in British Columbia, finance critic for the party. Jean Charest, the work he did as the Conservative leader during the 1995 referendum campaign, frankly, Canadians owe him a debt of gratitude.
Mr. Brown, you were speaking about Bill 21 and Bill 96. Both are provincial laws. Both have employed the notwithstanding clause, so they're not really contestable in many ways before the courts. So why is it important that Leadership Canada say something about that, and were you happy with the responses of your competitors?
Great question. So, listen, I respect provincial autonomy, but there is a line that you can't infringe the rights guaranteed in the Charter. And religious freedom is a right, and no one should lose their job based on their faith. And the fact that I continue to hear from residents in my hometown, people who have left Quebec because they can't continue down a path for their chosen profession is wrong. I don't believe in second-class citizenship, and I find it appalling that the Government of Canada hasn't firmly said they're going to seek intervener status and frankly match the resources of the Government of Canada with the resources of the Quebec Justice Department to make sure this court case is a level playing field. In terms of Bill 96, it's against the rights we have for official languages. The notion that you couldn't speak to your family doctor in English or French if that's the language that you choose to speak to your family doctor in is wrong. And I would protect the right to be able to speak to your family doctor in French in any other provinces as well. I think these are rights guaranteed in our Charter. In terms of the slippery words that Pierre used on Bill 21, he said he'd vote against it in the House of Commons, but what he said in the paper is he would not seek intervener status. And so clearly he's trying to take two positions. And like I said, he takes one position in English Canada and another position throughout his travels in Quebec. And I think it's important to take the same position, whether you're in Quebec or any other province. I think Canadians expect that consistency. Merci beaucoup.